Welcome back, everybody, and today we are here in this cave, and recently NemBombMC found some evidence to suggest that biomes will be able to specify the underground as well, which is to say, there we go, that we could potentially have cave biomes for a cave update in the future for 1.16. So today I'd like to go through a couple ideas on what cave biomes may work for the upcoming 1.16 update by going through a few of my worlds and, let's see, there's a beacon over here, and showcasing some ideas of what might happen to the underground. So let's go ahead and get started. To start off here, I want caves to be a lot larger. As it stands, this, combined with ravines, as seen over here, are as large as caves get. And while the ravine is nice, when you look at the floor space here, it is actually quite cramped. Now, of course, caves don't have to be absolutely massive, but something akin to this is a lot better than, say, this. Of course, caves should have their smaller areas, although they shouldn't be as common as they are now. Oh. Moving on further, this does not look very good, and neither does this. Well, the andesite here blends in quite well. The granite and diorite don't blend in very well to caves as they stand. Now, I don't think Mojang are going to take out these two block types or change their textures, as they do have their places in building. Very few places in building, but they do have their places. I would think it would be a lot more aesthetically pleasing if they were given their own cave types. This would parallel the real world's tendency to have different rock types depending on real world location. Now, as you can see, this actually does not look too terrible, except for when you look at the ores. As you can see, they do not blend into the new rock, or I call them new. That's just because I'm an old Minecrafter, I guess. But they do not blend in with the three stone types very well. And what the cave update could introduce is different variants on the ores. Of course, the problem with that would be that they wouldn't stack between ore types. So say this was coal ore stone and coal ore granite. They wouldn't stack, which of course would introduce a problem with inventory space. But that is not seemingly a concern from Mojang, at least as it stands. And as you can see with the diorite here, it's diorite. Does anybody really like diorite as it is here? But compared to the patchwork that it is in caves, it does look considerably better compared to right over there. If I can get some light over there. That just does not blend very well. Whereas this, even though it is just a mess of bird poop, this is quite a bit better than the patchwork. The final stone type for the caves could be sandstone here. And as you can see, we have sand in the walls as well as rough sandstone, or the rougher variant of sandstone. It's just called sandstone. And for the bulk of the cave, we would have smooth sandstone and potentially a sandstone variant on the ores. And a potential solution that I just came up with for the different ore types is an auto-smelting pick enchantment. So when you mine iron or gold, it'll just give you the bars instead. Of course, making it so you don't have to carry around as many ores with you. Moving on to the end of the more generic cave types. This could be the plains cave type, or something of the sort, or grassy cave, minus all of this lighting here. Of course, this is my Let's Play world, as seen by the giant map there. This cave would be an expansion on the trope that sometimes caves have just a little bit of grass in it, and of course back towards 1.2 and 1.3 it was quite likely that you would find one of these in your caves, and potentially just a sheep doing sheep things in here, as sheep do. And of course this biome, while I do like this slope here, I don't think it's very realistic, but the Mojang team could reintroduce the dirt slab from all the way back in, I think, beta, potentially alpha, that got removed way back when. And of course, this would please a lot of the building community as well, because that is a feature that a lot of the old Minecrafters really do miss. Now let's go ahead and head to the more interesting biome types. Right here, we would have the mushroom biome. Of course, as you can see, there are mushrooms everywhere, and the floor is mycelium. And we have cave spiders here, which I will explain in a second. But this would also provide a easier way for players to find mycelium underground, rather than having to go out and find a mushroom island. And this would also be a slightly better explanation to the mushrooms that you can find underground, or at least an expansion on that idea. As you can see, I have redstone torches in here, and some sea lanterns in my inventory, and that's because this biome here would introduce a new block type that is similar to the sea lantern in that it is a full block, and it is similar in color to the mushroom stems, but it would be in the similar light level as the redstone torch here. And the idea behind this is that it is a bioluminescent mushroom that goes ahead and lights up the cave, and I would think this should be called the spore block, which potentially is very easily farmable. And as you can see, the final aspect of this cave here is the cave spiders that are slowly killing themselves and wandering into the next cave system. But this biome here would have an increased rate of cave spiders and decreased rate of everything else. And the idea behind this is that the spiders that lived in this cave started eating the mushrooms and living off of them, inheriting their mushrooms' tendency towards being poisonous. And of course, up here at the end of this mock cave, as you can see, it just ends here, is a mushroom that is fully enveloping this part of the cave, or at least most of it. And this could be a potential way to transition between biomes as well. Now moving on. Oh. We are at my survival of the fittest game, and the next biome type, by the way, this is one of my previous multiplayer worlds, as seen by the towers and stuff that I would never have the skill to build. But underneath the ground here, this game had an extensive cave system. We have, what I've set up here is an aquifer. Now, from what I've understood from my research, aquifers are actually just a lot of water that is absorbed into more porous stone materials, such as sand and clay. But underneath the ground could be the aquifer biome, which is a giant lake, but underneath the ground. And this lake would have troughs going underneath it, or going through the bottom of it, as well as being full of potentially sea pickles, or maybe a jellyfish type mob that lights it up, which would of course also provide a new underwater lighting system. But since the game already has these pickles, I find the jellyfish mob to not be very realistic to be put into Minecraft. But this is still a interesting proof of concept, and of course you can see I have underground plants represented by this brain coral here, which maybe would be more accurately accurately portrayed as seagrass over here, as you would find in a lot of underground caves. But anyway, we can go ahead and move on here. We have one of my favorite projects, or one of the favorite biomes from this entire project, which is Blue Reach here, and it is an underground mushroom biome. But I'm not showing you this because it is a mushroom biome, but because if I grab my Bling Edit sword here, actually instead of transitioning that side of Blue Reach that we just came from over here, I've decided to transition this side of Blue Reach because it is of course a lot more developed, minus that half of course. And as you can see, we have the underground slime caverns. Now we could probably replace all of this prismarine with slime instead. Ooh, unlocked crafting recipes. But as you can see, in this biome there are a bunch of slime trees, and of course slimes around. Now in terms of Mojang wanting to balance resources, this of course would provide players with a whole load of slime blocks, but seeing as the non-technical community does not really care about these things, this would potentially be well balanced. And of course, as you can see with all these slimes here, this biome would only spawn, or this cave biome would only spawn slimes. And this would replace the old slime chunk system that's been around since, well, probably the alpha days, if I think back on it. And of course, that would mess with a lot of the technical community, but it would also provide a nice challenge to that community to develop a new type of farm. Of course, it's still very likely that there's just going to be a giant perimeter and a small platform in the middle towards bedrock. Well, depending on how the cave biomes work out, that is. But this is still an interesting concept, and you are stuck in there, aren't you? Beautiful. This next series of caves starts out right here with a fairly normal looking cave, except for this lava falling from the ceiling. And it is just a regular lava lake, or so you think. If I go ahead and head under the surface here, as you can see there is a big stash of diamonds, although I think it could use to be a little bigger. This is to parallel the real world creation of diamonds, in which they are formed under intense heat and pressure. Now of course you don't have the extreme pressure here per se, as it's just an open air lava lake, but you do have the intense heat, and this would encourage the player to then clear out the lava lake and not necessarily use the old trick of just using water to cave, because of course by doing this, not only do you just spread more lava around, but you are making it more difficult for yourself to get to those diamonds, as lava takes a painful amount of time to mine. Now let's go ahead and move on. I do believe it's this way. Might as well just go into spectator mode over to a place in an area. The next room is the ore room. As you can see, we have a whole bunch of ores scattered around this cave, jutting out into the opening, water flowing from the ceiling, and depending on the depth, maybe even lava. And of course, if you're not already seeing the theme of this string of caves, it is that with all these expanded caves, they are cutting through all of the areas where ores would normally generate. So by upping the amount of ores you will find in a regular, or I guess cave updated cave, it balances out the ore distribution. So say this area was a big cave. By expanding this cave in this direction, this is very slow, but doing a little bit of expansion there, I've cut through the plane, or I guess the 3D space, that ore is occupying, therefore getting rid of it completely. So with these two cave types that I've shown so far, this would increase or at least balance out the amount of ores you can find in the game. And moving on to this last one in the chain of ores, which is connected to this one, is a variant on the Aquifer, and that is to have ores scattered underneath, potentially just small bits of ore on the top, telling the story that there were ore veins on the ceiling, but they then fell into the lake here, or the aquifer. This second to last idea here takes inspiration from the fact that when you go into strongholds, a lot of the time you will find that they intersect with a cave, and you get some sort of ugly mess like this. Of course, I replicated this with TNT because this intersected with a water cave, as seen by this water, if you can even see. See? I fall down. And going back up here, let's go ahead and look at the design. Okay, here is the cave system. Let's go ahead and head up to the main area of it. And this is what I envisioned. This is taking inspiration from the stronghold here into the cave. And of course, as you can see, there is minimal lighting on the walls with these lava lighting. Great areas. And of course, these blocks could potentially be silverfish blocks as well, allowing for a little extra depth to this area. And as you can see, we have a bunch of vines growing around, as well as potentially an increased spawn rate for bats as well. And of course, as you can see, this does not intersect with the ore generation, at least in the wall here. Although this big open space would intersect. But this area could potentially have some chests around. Containing loot such as notch apples and other stronghold type loot items in them. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to our final design for the day. And of course, the final biome for today is the computer biome, obviously. I mean, who wouldn't want a redstone computer in their cave system, right? I mean, just look at this place. And of course, if we go on behind, I mean, this is just, I mean, we find this in caves in real life. I don't know why Mojang wouldn't put this in. It's beautiful. So beautiful. I think I'm just gonna stay here. This is my place. But anyway, that's how I envision a cave update may pan out, especially considering that it is likely that we're getting cave biomes. So that's going to do it for today's episode. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye. I'm going to run into a creeper here. Just wait.